But what was interesting about this engine, the way apparently the blast was done, when it started occurring, it had a fail-safe system. It obviously shut itself off where it could shut that force off. And when it did, it probably took about a nanosecond, but in a nanosecond it blew about a 4-foot hole in it, diameter. So I'm looking down in this hole.
So they'd figured out a way to shut the field down.
Yeah, whoever they are, or whatever it was. And, yeah, they had a neat fail-safe system because it interrupted the plasma flow, which I hadn't thought about that. There was a lot of things I was learning off this engine because I was memorizing this thing. Boy, photographic memory, that was real handy. It's like VCR in this thing. So then I started to crawl down the hole, and they asked me a question, and that's when I knew they were lying. They asked me, where is the circuitry? And
well, I just heard a big boom on there. Anyway, where is the circuitry?
Yeah, they asked me, where is the circuitry?
Yeah.
And I said, good question. And I started looking at it. Now, see, if you look at particle accelerators and any of the type of fusion things, I had miles of wiring in mind. The reason being is that if you remember the old Fat Boy, the atomic bomb, it built like a soccer ball.
Yes, sir.
And remember all that? And there's thousands of wires going to every point of the pentagon shape.
Right.
All right. Those are wires that cause the initial blast that has to be. That's why they had such a hard time with it. It had to be a 360-degree pattern blast simultaneously blowing the particles into each other.
Oh, correct, yes.
So, anyhow, this thing had no wiring anywhere. And the first question I asked, you guys didn't take the wiring off? You know, and they said no. And I'm sitting there going, now, if this is their engine, this is bull. They're lying through their teeth. And I just thought, okay, well, let me look at it. So I'm looking at it, and they're right, man. There's not a single wire anywhere. But there's something else. There's a trunk case running down across this thing that looks like almost like a vertebrate column, and it's just like a big bundle of tubes, which we could call fiber optics today. But this thing, when the tubing would run across the center of this thing, it'd cascade over its sides, and then it'd break off into smaller tubes and the smaller tubes, but it was a pattern of all these thousands of tubes. And I went, this looks familiar, and I thought, good God, I've seen this before. The brainstem. This is a neural
network, like a
neural network running over its body, and I went, that's the circuitry. And I thought, wonder why these guys hadn't seen that. So there was a liquid in these tubes, and I could see, a break in them where they had some of them drained. And anyway, I stepped down in the hole to take a look. I said, I need to step down this thing because this is such a mind rush for me. I've worked on something as small, about the size of a watermelon, and now here it is, advanced concept size, big enough you can crawl in it.
Well, I see why they had you there.
And I said, I need to step down this hole and take a look. And they said, yeah, be careful. So I get down there and I look around and I saw a bunch of other things, just outrageous stuff. And I knew right then that this is not from our technological base. It's nowhere near.
Did you raise this point with them?
Well, when I came out and I'm standing up on top, they asked me another question. They asked me, I guess this is when things went bad. They asked me if I knew exactly how the fuel was loaded. And I went, wait a minute. If this is your engine, you don't know anything about circuitry, and this is not your engine. And we have a phrase in the South, it's not from the neighborhood, is it, boys? And I said, let me guess, this is a power plant come out of an engine by the way the parameter looks been ripped out or torn out. So there's a spacecraft somewhere. Where's the craft? And if it's got a craft, it's got an occupant. What do you do with them people? And they exploded. They were so furious because I guess they realized maybe I wasn't just a naive 17-year-old techno-nerd punk. So I got furious with them because I got hurt. What happened was I realized the country's lying to you, government. I really did listen to Anita Bryant when I went to sleep at night.
Yeah, those were different days.
They were.
I mean, they really were. You're right about that.
Think about that, Art. You can relate to it. I'm 43. I used to play Anita Bryant records and go to sleep listening to her. And all of a sudden, it's just everything's shattered right in front of you, and you're just pissed. You're more angry and pissed than anything.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I mean, a lot of us have sort of done the same slow, except for us, it's been a slow burn through Watergate, through so many disappointments, and people have become so cynical, and for you that occurred all at once.
Yeah, I mean, back on my bed in my little house, my mother made me an American flag, a blanket out of American flag. You know, I slept with that thing. And it just crushed me to my soul that we've been lied to. So anyway, I'm so angry, hurt. I'm getting off this engine. They started to send the little sergeants up to get me. I said, "Oh, get down." So I'm getting down off this thing, and I grab those baffle plates, and guess what happens, Art?
What?
It's not blue, white swirling. It looks like a red-orange tornado extending through the alloys. And I pull my hand off, stick my hands back on it, and it comes back in. Again, same thing. And I just realized what happened when I pulled away from the engine. You know what it was doing? It's not heat-sensitive recognition. It's not picking up on heat radiation. It's picking up on mental energy. It's a symbiotic engine. It's reading my own mental energy. When I first approached it, I was sitting there going, "Oh, wow," awe and amazement, just having a good time. When I came down, I am angry, hurt, definitely upset. And
it was reacted in a completely...
It reacted different. It visualized what I was feeling in those baffles, and I'm going, oh, God, it's a symbiotic engine. This thing is recognizing mental energy.
But that absolutely makes sense with what you told us about the neural network, or what seemed to be a neural network. That makes absolute sense.
Yeah, it all came clear, because when a pilot sits down in this thing, he will strap in, whoever will strap in this thing, and his brain pattern will merge with the synaptic firing order of that engine, and probably the spacecraft has its own system, so all three of them are independent ascension entities of their own, but yet a symbiotic community working in harmony with each other.
How much more did you get to see, or did they rush you out of
that? That was it, because they grabbed me, and we went out in a hurry, but I was turning around looking at the thing, and I knew what it was. It was a symbiotic engine. Now, people out there in Radio Land might think this is bull. Well, let me give you a piece of current update news here. You ever heard of Princeton University?
Yes,
You ever heard of McDonnell Douglas?
Of course.
Well, they're running a project with Dr. Robert John in the Pierre Lab, and for the F-22 fighter. You ever heard of that?
Oh, yes.
And what they're doing is a pilot at 1,600 miles an hour in a dogfight has no time to look at the dash. So 1/10 of a second determines whether you live or die. So what he will do, he'll think, lock, fire, and the aircraft will respond to his thought waves. Symbiotic engine technology, that's a fact. We're doing it at F-22. Where'd they get their ideas, y'all?
When you testified in front of Congress, and you told them all this.
All this. I'm facing 20 years under oath, perjury sentence.
I know, I understand. What kind of reaction did you get? Did they, was it that? I mean, did they laugh?
No. I have to say it was not a happy moment. It's interesting. It's an age thing. The younger members of Congress are standing there looking like, you just stunned them, right? And they're trying to go, name of God, what is this? Some of the older members, really elderly ones, they were squirming. They looked more uncomfortable. And I'm going, they know. And that's what I told them. I said, y'all know. Not all of you, but I can see your faces. I know some of you know.
Well, it's no wonder Stephen Greer brought you to Washington.
Yeah.
It's no wonder.
Steve said, I was a litmus test, and I turned pink. Actually, I turned red. I got into the testifying. I actually got angry. I really vented on him. And one senator asked me, "You're not intimidated by all this power, are you?" And I said, "Power?" I said, "When you die, you're going to meet power, pal, on the other side. This is man's world. This is not power."
Well, listen, I wasn't privy to how all of the testimony. I know that you and many others testified in Washington behind closed doors.
Right.
What was the net effect of that? Do you think?
It was the reason I went was that Dr. Greer said there's a possibility that they may do a two-way disclosure. And I thought, for 26 years I've been quiet about this story. It wasn't until March of this year I talked about it. My wife, for 15 years, I never said a word to her about this. So I've been totally quiet. And I thought, I just may get a chance to hear the rest of the story from the other side, and if I've been invited, and if I don't go, I will kick myself for the rest of my life.
Now, when you left Area 51, before you left, they must have said something like, son, you keep your lips buttoned.
Oh, well, that was more of the story. When we went upstairs, there was a real problem we had. We ran into multiple problems. First is they now know I'm not cooperative because I'm more ticked about this. Next thing is that I realize what they're trying to do, and what it is, they're trying to get a reverse technology on this thing.
Of course, back engineer it.